Welcome everyone to this Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program Beta Forever. My name is Virak67 and we will be doing a Let's Play career mode on moderate difficulty. Now for those of you who are familiar with KSP in earlier versions, you will notice something slightly different. KSC is looking a little bit run down, and that's because buildings now need upgrades as part of your career mode. So let's head on over and see Gene in his shack, also known as Mission Control, and start earning some funds by completing contracts. I'll see you there. Hi Gene. Your office isn't looking quite as plush as it used to, and because of that I can see you've only got an abacus, a slide rule and some rather ancient looking machines in the background. And as a result, you can only look after 2 active contracts at any one time. So let's have a look at the 4 contracts you have at the moment. The first is to launch a new vessel. I think we can probably do that one. We'll get an advance of 1,651 funds, and we'll get a handy sum of funds, science and reputation as a result, but we will be heavily penalised if we fail. I also think we will be able to set an altitude record of 5,000 metres. That should be relatively straightforward. So let's accept that contract. We'll accept the first contract we looked at and head over to the VAB and build our first vehicle. Now the VAB is more or less the same as in previous versions of KSP, but there are some limitations as a result of the upgrade process. And you can find out what your limitations are by looking at this little information icon down here. We can build vehicles of up to 30 parts, and we can launch vehicles on the launch pad of up to 18 tons. You can also see some size limitations of height, width and length. But I don't think those are going to bother us with our first contracts. All we have to do is launch a vessel and achieve 5,000 metre altitude record. So let's begin with the Mark 1 command pod. And I think we'll just add a solid fuel booster. That should probably be enough to meet the requirements of our first contract. But we don't want poor old Jeb to find himself at a bit of a loss on the way down, so we'll add a parachute. We'll also add, from the science category, the Kerbal engineering system. This is a slight upgrade on Season 1. It's version 1 of Kerbal Engineer, and that gives us our readout to tell us how much delta V and how much thrust to weight ratio we have. Now 5 is way too much. That'll get us shooting into the air at a heck of a rate. So let's right click and reduce the thrust somewhat and get ourselves down to a much more healthy 2 thrust to weight ratio. We'll still have plenty of acceleration, but not be wasting fuel pressing against the atmosphere. Now I reckon that's about enough to meet our first couple of contracts. So let's get on out to this rather paltry looking launch pad and get those contracts sorted for Gene. I'll see you in a moment. Well, here we find ourselves on our rather simple launch pad. Now prior to our arrival, it looks like, well, they didn't do too well. But let's not miss a trick here. Let's right click on the crew hatch and get Jeb to do a crew report. We should at least earn what science we can at every opportunity. So 1.4 science, we will save that and get ready to complete our launch. Now let's get our contract window available. We will get our T key on, our SAS on, to help keeping us, well, pointing the right end towards space. I think they call that. There's no point with throttle because solid fuel boosters just run at whatever thrust limit we've set it to. So let's go. But first double check our staging. Maybe that's why there's so much soot and smoke and debris lying around the launch pad. So we've got the solid rocket booster first and then later our parachute. So let's tap the space bar and get ourselves launched. Now good old Kerbal Engineer is giving us 2 heads-up displays. We can see here our final apoapsis height, so we've got to get up to 5,000 meters, having successfully launched a new vessel, so that was a nice easy one. So we're up to an apoapsis, our maximum height of 2.3 kilometers, and we've only got to get up to 5 kilometers in order to break our record. Now I wouldn't want to crash back down onto the launch pad and damage anything, so let's just get ourselves turned over a little bit out to sea. Now you can see we're going to meet our apoapsis record, our maximum height, quite easily. We've still got about a third of our fuel left and we're still accelerating upwards. So I think we've done pretty well with our first mission for Gene. Jeb looks happy enough. Everything seems to be going pretty much okay. And you can see we have done extremely well. 20,000 apoapsis, 22. Gene is going to be impressed, as are the boys back home, Bill and Bob, jealous of Jeb getting this first opportunity. Now fuel's just run out, so it's time to head back down. Now if we switch to map mode with the M key, we can see that we're following this trajectory and we'll end up in the ocean just beyond the emergency runway, which is a patch of grass on this island. Now you'll also notice the orbit is in grey. You can't click on it or add maneuver nodes, and that's because we need to do some upgrades to mission control and the tracking station. But we'll cover that a little bit later. Let's go and see the view that Gene has of the craft, and if we go to IVA mode we can see what little Jeb has of his view. We're almost at apoapsis now, which is 38 kilometers, and he can see a little patch of starry sky. Just rotate the vehicle past the Milky Way, and I think Jeb's quite happy with that. Quite a nominal, controlled and easygoing flight. So let's get back out of IVA mode and watch ourselves as we fall back to the planet's surface. Now if we click on the command pod again and try a crew report, you'll notice that we already have one. So not going to wipe the first one. Why waste perfectly good science? We'll get another crew report at another time. If we try to EVA, you'll notice you can't. And again, that's because you need to do upgrades in order to EVA out of your vehicle when in flight. But probably not the safest thing to do here now anyway. Cruising back down now, 20 kilometers. I think it's about time we deployed our parachute, just to give Jeb a chance of slowing down before he hits the ground, or in this case the water, which is particularly hard, as anyone will tell you if you've done a belly flop in a pool. Now if we turn the SAS off, we'll just let gravity do its thing and keep the vehicle pointed in the most appropriate, gravity appropriate direction. So we should be going engine first, and hopefully we won't lose the engine on impact. That would be a loss of funds. The more we can recover, and the nearest we can recover it to KSC, the better we'll be, because funds are us. So not long now, 5 kilometres up. That was the record point we had to meet, so we did rather well getting over that. Now this is a very handy value up here, the altitude above terrain. So whilst we'll be going down to sea level, landing on a moon or a planet, or even in the mountains, this figure can be very helpful. Get a good view of KSC there. Give a wave to Jean, just so Jean knows we're coming down. $800, $700. Now at about $500 the parachute will open. There we go. And we begin the final part of our descent. Now any speed below 10 meters per second you will probably survive. 5 meters you'll be doing pretty well. 5 meters per second. There's our shadow approaching, so the sun must be above us. Let's get another postcard for Jean with the Mun in the background as we approach the water surface at a handy 7.7 meters per second. We've got 150 meters to go. Now I suspect when we land in the water we will tip over, and hopefully the solid fuel engine won't snap off. Now solid fuel boosters are relatively cheap, so it won't be a great loss. And there we go. Over the emergency airstrip island in the background, and a successful mission. So let's recover the vessel and see how we did. Now at the end of every mission you will get a mission report. In this first tab, find out how much science we've gathered. So we did the crew report on the launch pad, and the vessel survived a flight. And we gained a total of 5.9 science, so we now have a total of 9 science in all, which we can spend in the science centre in a few minutes. We recovered this list of parts, which was all of the parts in this case. None were discarded and none were broken, although of course the solid fuel propellant was lost because we burned all of that. We gained a total of 1,390 funds from the recovered parts, giving us a total of 22,950 parts. And of course we successfully recovered Jebediah, who gained 1 whole XP as part of his experience. And for that, we didn't gain any reputation particularly, but we do have a grand total of 20 reputation to spend. Now there is another way you can check on your missions. You can look at the message log. So there was the contract for the altitude record, 2,064 funds and 10 reputation. And simply launching a new vessel gave us 4,128, 4 science and 10 reputation. So for a first mission we did pretty well. But we need more parts if we're going to do more missions. So let's go to the Science Centre and see what technology we can set the guys researching. Now we really only have one choice of 4 parts to spend 5 science on, and those are some very basic fuel tanks, a separator, but more importantly a mystery goo containment unit. An excellent way of gaining science, so this is something we definitely need. So let's spend 5 science on that and buy the parts for 3,350 funds. Now we don't have any further science in order to be able to purchase 15 science worth of survivability, 18 science worth of stability, or 20 science worth of extra engines. But we'll come back to that. With that in mind, I'd like to thank you for watching and hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.